Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the board meeting. Just a quick reminder that this is our business meeting and that it is conducted in public, not a public meeting. I would also like to remind you that our meeting is 99% of what we vote on is business. Thus, you will see that we are doing things like approving finances, approving contracts, appointments, and so on. During the meeting, you will find that there are more information clarification questions versus discussion, as we have all been informed with materials ahead of time. And essentially, what our votes are affirming that the hard work that Dr. Barnes and Mr. Snyder do are good, and we're ready to move forward. With that, may I please have roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Here.
Mrs. Grieve.
Here.
Ms. Grosek.
Here.
Mr. Hess.
Here.
All right, to begin with, we have a very special young man who's here today, Giovanni Barker. We would love to have you come up and help us with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would, and then you can stay right up here.
Test, test, check, 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 check. He is ready to go. Yep.
He's got it.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Outstanding.
Okay, you gotta stay right here. They're gonna say some nice things about you, okay? Okay?
We go, sorry. Colleen. Colleen?
Hi, Chio. How are you? Good. Is it okay if I read this to you today? So you are our student of the month this month. That means you are the best student at Mayfield Preschool. Is that exciting? Yeah. So this says, the Mayfield City School District and the Mayfield Board of Education present this proclamation to Giovanni Barker, Student of the Month from Mayfield Preschool. Whereas Giovanni exemplifies the positive traits of a Mayfield preschool cub. And whereas Giovanni has a positive attitude and is always willing to help a friend and tries hard every day. Whereas Giovanni's teachers describe him as kind, caring, dedicated, and motivated to learn. He's respectful to others and a positive role model and is always there to help a friend in need. And whereas Giovanni is an active participant in the classroom who is constantly putting forth his best effort, his enthusiasm to learn is contagious. The Mayfield preschool teachers and staff couldn't be more excited to have Gio as a Mayfield preschool cub again next year so we can continue to see him soar. Now, therefore be it resolved, on behalf of the members of Mayfield School Community, Giovanni Barker is named the Mayfield Board of Education Student of the Month for Mayfield Preschool on this day, February 23rd, 2022.
Woo! Hey. Congratulations, Gio. Congratulations, good job.
How are you going to try and take some pictures? Okay. Yeah. He's ready. Where?
Mom and Dad, you can come up here too if you want. You're doing a great job.
Jeez.
Want me to take a picture? Want me to take a
the
picture?
family.
Family?
Come up.
You're doing a great job. Just for you.
Here, want to get your phone and take a picture for you? They got it? All right. You got them? Go ahead. Get some family in there. So cute.
Yay.
You jumped off there.
Really
Yeah. This way, buddy.
Yeah.
Come on, Giovanni, down the line.
You got the fist bump. Oh, here, we'll do the shake. Good shake. All right. Dad, congrats.
You gotta get everybody. Man, go over here. Yeah, congratulations. Good job. Good job.
Went the opposite way.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That one too. Just
That's really hard to follow because I'm not as cute as he is. He's really adorable. So Dr. Barnes, Mrs. Grosick, Board of Education, thank you for letting me present tonight, not only our Student of the Month, but also I want to tell you a little bit about our morning meeting with Preschool Cubs. As with any innovative experience, it starts with a need. So our teachers over the past few years have noticed that students have an increased need to improve their skills, social skills, excuse me. Students are struggling to interact with one another and their teachers, basically anybody outside of their family unit. They haven't had a chance to go on vacations or to the zoo or to the park or really just go down the street and play with their friends. So that's really limiting their ability to interact with one another. Well, how does that impact learning? Well, here in Mayfield, we do all access learning, which means that students are not sitting, reading books, and just rote answering teachers. They're interacting with one another, and they're learning through play and meaningful experiences. So in order to prepare students for kindergarten and beyond, we had to shift our focus to teaching students those social emotional skills, in addition to our, academics. So whenever there's a need, there has to be a plan. Well, our teachers took it upon themselves to reach out to kindergarten teachers, specifically at Millridge Elementary. They had meaningful conversations with the kindergarten teachers. They went and observed morning meeting. They dove into the curriculum that kindergarten was using for that morning meeting, and they picked out the things that were going to help our students shine as Mayfield Preschool Cubs. So we created morning meeting with a focus on social skills. So what are these social skills? Things that the kids needed to learn, sometimes the adults do. So we want to learn empathy, we want to learn conversational skills, how to start, engage, and continue a conversation. We want them to gain confidence of who they are as individuals, not as part of their family. They want to learn as people and individuals. We want them to gain confidence. Turn taking. Again, students and adults, we might all need a little bit of this in our lives. Self-advocacy. How do we ask for help when we need it? Or how do we help a friend who needs help? Understanding their personal emotions and independence. All of these things were key in the conversations that the preschool had with the kindergarten. While the kindergarten teachers told us that academics are important, letters, numbers, and all of those things, these are the key attributes that they said make a successful kindergartner. So we had to embed that into our curriculum. Now I can sit up here and talk at you, but we are preschool, so we don't do that a lot. So I am going to show you what our morning meeting looks like every day.
So the purpose of our morning meeting is to build social emotional skills with the kids and build a stronger community in the classroom. Social skills are very important for kids at this age, and we want to keep increasing it for them, and we want to give them foundation skills that will help them build on through their whole entire life. Some important skills that they'll be learning is cooperation, trust, confidence, peer interactions, greeting their peers, language. All of those will help them to build their social emotional skills throughout their life.
So we teach the kids as well by today, giving them an opportunity to greet their peers. And so we do that by having them verbally communicate that, and then we also do some type of nonverbal greeting, such as a high five or a fist bump or an elbow bump. And then another way to keep them involved is constantly using music and movement. So we have a song of the week where we typically also pair the song with some type of action or movement to go and sharing opportunities that we do daily as part of our format. So what that might look like is we might play a game such as hot potato, or have them go on a skip to find a certain object or color in the classroom. Or on some days we have things like question weekend. So that's how we do it.
Doesn't that look like fun? Do you like morning meeting? Is it a lot of fun to do?
Yeah.
Do you think that they should do morning meeting with us? Yeah, I think so too. So, because it looks like so much fun, we really thought we'd be remiss if you guys couldn't engage in our morning meeting festivities. So we would like to invite the Board of Education to come up for a special edition of morning meeting with Ms. Pona and Mrs. Armstrong.
I mean,
Yeah, that doesn't mean us.
Yes.
That's the board. Oh,
We need to sit in a circle so you can sit on the floor or
yeah,
on
get
a
off.
chair. You wanna sit on the floor? Actually, start standing.
Oh.
oh,
Start standing, sorry.
oh.
There, come
I
on.
have to do that a lot.
Going up and down.
Sean, edit this.
Give you a little bit.
This is gonna be a tough one.
This is gonna be a tough one, ready?
Getting
All right, are we ready?
Getting
So
up.
we're gonna transform into Mrs. Armstrong's classroom. Are we ready? So we always start with our preschool club pledge. So Mrs. Armstrong will do it first, and then you guys can copy after me. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. I am kind.
I am kind.
I am smart.
I am smart.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I am a good friend.
I am a good friend.
There's no one quite like me.
There's no one quite like me.
You guys did such a
All
good
right.
Give your friends a big kiss.
Oh.
All right, now we're going to sing our hello song. Ready?
Oh, boy.
Hello, hello. Can you clap your hands?
Hello, hello.
Can you
Stomp your feet.
Can you stretch up
high.
Can you touch your
No,
toes?
no.
Can you say
Hello.
hello?
Hello.
Can
You take a seat.
Hello.
Hello.
It's time to meet. You're welcome to sit in a chair.
This is easy.
All right, so next what we do with our friends is we like to see, is everybody here today? Let's look around. Who are we missing?
Mr. Teresi.
Mr. Teresi.
Oh, we're missing Mrs. Teresi. We're missing Mrs. Preble.
that's what I
So
was
let's
gonna
sing
say.
our wishing well song for them. Ready? Mr. Teresi and Mrs. Preble are absent today. We wish them well in our own
special way.
We think good thoughts and we send them love too. This song is to say that we miss you. Mr. Teresi and Mrs. Preble are absent today. We wish them well in our own special way. All right, let's give Mr. Teresi and Mrs. Preble big hugs.
Oh,
Send them lots of love. And come back soon. All right, now's our favorite part of morning meeting, our greeting. Can you look up on the board and see how we're going to greet our friends today?
Oh, boy.
We're going to do a hip bump.
All right.
So remember, friends, when we do a hip bump, shall we bump them hard?
No.
No.
What will happen if we bump our friends hard, Gio?
They go flying.
Will they fall over? Oh, they might fall over and get hurt. So watch, Mrs. Pona and I are going to show you how you're going to greet your friend. Remember, I want you to look at your friend. I want you to say their name nice and loud. I can't hear you if you're whispering, so say it nice and loud, okay? Watch us.
Bust
Here
a
we
hip too,
go. Hi, Mrs. Pona.
Hi, Mrs. Armstrong.
Okay. Nice and gentle.
Do we have to make that noise?
What?
Do that noise?
If you want to do
All
the
right.
noise.
I like the noise.
Check it.
Sound effects.
All right, Mr. Snyder and Mrs. Grieve, can you please say hello
Thanks,
to each other?
Hi, Mr. Snyder.
Hi, Mrs. Grieve.
There you go. Well, can you get up?
All right, and Mr. Hess and Dr. Barnes.
Getting down
Hi,
to you.
Dr. Barnes.
Hi, Mr. S.
Carol, Mrs. Grosick?
Hi, Mr. Fernaro.
Hi, Mrs. Grosick. Are we getting this?
Mrs. Bona?
Hi, Mrs. Pona.
Gio.
Good job.
Good job.
Okay, do you remember the game we played yesterday?
Yes, I love this game.
Oh, good. We played
excited.
the
Uh-oh.
balloon keep it up game. So I need everybody to stand up.
All right.
And remember, we're going to work as a team. Okay? We're not going to hit it so hard that our friends can't get it. We're going to toss it gently, right? And we're going to keep it up and try not to let it fall on the ground.
Uh-oh.
Let's
do it.
We're going to try so everyone gets a chance. But if everybody doesn't get a turn, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's okay.
Okay, ready? Here we go.
Nice, Gio.
Back to me. Look out. Why? Sorry. By me.
I want to turn.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Being a ball.
Oh, boy.
Scooping.
Wow, we're doing so good. I
We
like how
are.
we're working together.
Get it.
Nice
Uh-oh,
one.
they're gonna move.
Go ahead.
All right.
Okay.
Oh.
Nice job. I like how everybody was taking turns and cheering for each other. I want everyone to give each other a hip hip hooray. Ready?
Hip, hip, hooray.
Good job, everyone.
Gio, that was your snack time.
Best morning meeting ever.
Is there a snack time? Good job, buddy.
Gio.
Thank you all for being such good sports and engaging in our morning meeting. So this is something we have done every morning, and as you can see, the students really know the routine. It's a fun and interactive way for students to learn those social skills that will be imperative to their learning and success in kindergarten. So our goal is to create experiences that will make our Mayfield Preschool Cubs into kindergarten Wildcats. Thank you, Board of Education, for interacting with us today.
Awesome.
Oh, and for being such great sports and doing such a wonderful job at morning meeting, you
You all
get
get a
Mayfield
sticker.
Preschool Cub
All
stickers.
right.
Thank
Hey.
you.
Boy, look at there. Thank you.
It's all about the sticker. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should do this at work.
Thank you.
Should do this at work every morning, except I work at home. Thank you.
Member has his privileges.
I like it.
Put it up here a little higher.
All right. I think we have to play follow the leader. I mean, that's pretty good.
Gio, put yours.
With that, we also have an update, a presentation by Dr. Barnes. Thank you, preschool. Thank you, Gio. Made my evening.
Whoops.
You're driving, right?
If you guys, Gio and family, if you guys need to leave, it's okay. Thank you. I know we're we're edging closer to bedtime every second.
Thank you.
Staff as well. We know you got a lot of work tomorrow. Feel free.
Nice job. I'm a little sore. Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Good job.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Hard to follow Geo in the preschool, isn't it? But nevertheless, we'll do our best. Madam President, board members, Mr. Snyder, I wanted to provide a brief masking update. We have an item before the board tonight for consideration. It is an update related to our policy transition from recommended to, from mandated to recommended effective February 7th for students, teachers, and staff, preschool teachers and students and visitors maintain a mask mandate at this time. So I'm going to go over a couple of big ideas as it relates to rationale, then give some specifics, and then ask if the board has any questions. So recent data trends in the Ohio Department of Health changes. COVID data continues to show rapid decreases of transmission. The Ohio Department of Health on the 26th of January shifted schools from universal contact tracing model to a cluster outbreak management model, which was a big shift from the schools being the sole entity responsible for managing that. We continue to follow ODH's protocols of mask to stay and test to play for our athletes and students in extracurricular and co-curricular activities. As you see there, asymptomatic students can attend school while wearing a mask if they have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. Our local dashboard since mid-January shows little to no COVID-19 cases among students and staff. And there's a graph on here at the end when we get to the specifics that'll indicate that for you. As it relates to some of the specifics for making this transition to a recommended policy versus a mandate, expanded vaccination eligibility that we didn't have before. Our Mayfield school community, the communities that feed our school system, if you look at their vaccination rates, 44143, 77.9%. 44124 is 83.47%, and 44040 is 91.93%. What that means is a pretty good indication that our community, our surrounding community that feeds our school, are keeping us all pretty much safe because of their participation in the vaccination, COVID vaccine. The county positivity rate in Cuyahoga County right now is 3.4 over the last 7-day period. We were up in the 20s and 30s at times. Now we're, as of today, 3.41 over the last 7 days. Contact tracing changes is another specific. Again, we were the sole entity responsible for doing that. Now, as with any outbreak in the past, measles, mumps, chickenpox, the Department of Health will contact us, and they will lead that charge now. We, as a district, no longer are responsible for that. That is a huge shift because it was a tremendous burden on our operations here within the district. A lot of staff it took to manage this in the past. And our local Mayfield City School data or COVID-19 data, as of February 23rd, 2022, which is today, we have 0 reporting active cases of COVID-19. Last week we had 0, and if my memory serves me correctly, the week of the 7th, so we're in our 3rd week, we had 1. So those are some more specific points. And then ultimately, parents still have the choice to send their students children to school with a mask if they so choose, or if available as a part of the expanded vaccination opportunities, participate in getting a vaccine if they haven't already done so. The picture of our recent data since November, you have it in front of you as well. But here's what we're showing, and just to point this out, if you look at our total quarantines at the bottom, we've basically, since January, flatlined this thing. And that's a result of change in policy primarily that is being driven by the Ohio Department of Health. We are no longer solely responsible for that, number one. And number two, with the mask to stay, that gives our students and staff the opportunity to continue to engage in in-person interaction, learning experiences, et cetera, even if exposed. And then our top graph there, as you see, we really spiked around right before Christmas. Boy, I tell you, we were really hitting the mark there, and even again in the beginning of January when we were returning from winter break. But even then, as you can see, we showed a steady decline, and even with our students and staff as it relates to positive rates, positive cases related to COVID-19, we've pretty much flatlined. As I mentioned this week, as of today, we have 0 active cases. So it is because of these reasons that we made the transition on February 7th, and that's where we're at right now. I wanted to share that with you ahead of your action tonight and ask if you have any questions.
I don't have a question. I'm just happy to see that the County Board of Health has finally taken charge of this and giving our staff the opportunity to do what they're here to do and not count numbers of, quarantines and contact trace and all that. We can get back to school business. So I'm happy to see that happening.
Amen. I think we're all relieved. I don't think any of us, you, our staff, our teams, ever thought that we would be in the public health business. We get it as a partner in prevention, a partner in overall health of our community, our state, our nation as a whole. But, this has really been tough to navigate this independently of, the Department of Health, who traditionally would handle this. So I take my hat off to our staff, our teams for managing to the best of their ability considering the circumstances.
I agree.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us to the mask policy modification. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Hess, Mr. Finaro.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next, we move to community communications. This is an opportunity for community members to come and speak to us. It's an informative versus interactive section. We had 3 individuals who notified us ahead of time that they wished to speak, and so we will go in order. We also have 1 individual who wanted to speak to an agenda item here this evening. So our first speaker is Nadia Coble.
Could you give us 1 second, Mrs.
Oh, sure.
Grosek and Mrs. Coble? I hope I said the name correctly. We're putting up a 5-minute timer, and we'll bring the mic to you. Once we bring this up, that way you'll be able to see it. I'll give you a high sign with about 30 seconds to go if you're close to the end of the 5-minute window. But it'll at least be a reference for you as well. Okay, and is the start now at the top there, right here? Is it okay? Yeah, I see it. Yep. Set? Hold on. Set. Do I hit the set? That'll start it? Got it. Thank you. So you want to take the mic over to her? You remember Phil Donahue? He'll bring the mic to you, and then we'll start talking for those of you that might be. And whenever you start talking is when I'll start the time.
Hello? Does it sound louder?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good evening. My name is Nadia Cobal. I live at 375 Timber Ridge Trail in Gates Mills, and I have twin boys in the 6th grade at middle school. I'm here to speak to you as a parent, a pediatric nurse practitioner, and an advocate for children with special needs. Going forward, I implore you to make any new decisions regarding the health of our children by including parents, unbiased healthcare professionals, and staff that work with special needs populations, or population. A true task force should be formed to consider all outcomes of a health mandate. Decisions like masking are not always one size fits all. So as a parent and a nurse practitioner, I asked that these items be addressed for our students. The numbers of depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, and behavioral responses in pediatrics have increased profoundly, and I see these numbers every day firsthand at work. So as a parent and an NP, I'd like to know, or it would be great to know, what is the school district doing to support students exhibiting these issues? Have you increased mental health staff, like guidance counselors, social workers? How about one-on-one talks with kids? I really have not seen any outreach to parents about what to look for, who to call for help when they see this in their children. Really, with this happening these past 2 years, there should be just a huge marketing or outreach to parents to highlight these issues. Schools are often the first step of the referral process for these kind of issues. Another major effect of masking is the loss of the developmental milestones, vocabulary, and speech for the very young children. Our preschoolers are still in masks here. Why? You know, there's data showing that they're losing IQ points. And now the CDC has adjusted these milestones that they're supposed to meet, you know, by 15 months, by 24 months, and now they have longer time to meet these. And really, that's going backwards in life. And I really don't want to see Mayfield be a part of that. These losses that these kids are losing, they have to be recouped now. So really, something like let the parents decide if their children should wear a mask in preschool. Masking and the vaccinations, they really should not be tied together. We have to look at the best interest for these kids. And then finally, one of my boys has autism, and so I'm really big on supporting the special needs population. When these big mandates come out, really, we have to look at all outcomes that can happen. I know you're just trying to protect the kids, the staff, cut down on cases. I know all of that. But really, there's other things that happen to all of the kids, and especially with the ones with special needs. So I'm trying to say that that's why a task force, somewhere where you gather multidisciplinary people together to decide about these big changes, would be of great help. This is a quick example. My son with autism, he licks his lips when he gets anxious, and he'll get a little redness. It goes away. The first day of demasking on February 7th, he licked his lips, and he had this horrible rash on his face, ear to ear, that he missed school, and it was all because he felt naked without a mask. So it's like that kind of stuff has to be thought about when you make any kind of big change, like masking or not, or even like maybe one day you want all the students to wear a uniform, or like something where they all dress the same, you know, like he's not going to wear long pants if you want them all to wear khakis, you know, like you got to think about all the like little things, not just the big things. So different approaches have to take place when there's these big kind of changes made. And then finally, these are some things that I really think that I hear about in the community and that the board really has to address. The more awareness for the special needs population, but we'll move on. Violence and threats in the schools, bullying, fights, these copycat calls. What's being done to teach the schools or support the students about this? What's keeping our kids safe? Especially that fight at the middle school last week that there's been a lot of talk of. How are kids being disciplined? And then finally, I just want to see a better relationship between the board and the parents and the community. The coffee talks are great. I really think we need to expand on that so that there's more camaraderie. Thank you.
Thank you.
She'll announce you, Katie, I'm sorry.
All right. Our next speaker is Katie Havel.
I'll walk up here then, so you don't have to adjust it. Okay, is that good? Okay. All right, my name is Katie Havel, and I live on Mayfair Boulevard in Mayfield Heights. As you might remember, last month I was not permitted to speak at the board meeting. You see, I had obligations to my children and asked a friend to fill out my form in case I ran a few minutes late. However, despite that it was turned in before the meeting started, I was not permitted to talk because I arrived at my seat at 7:03 p.m. Apparently, there was a random new rule that was put into place where you needed to be seated exactly at the time the meeting started. I'd also like to point out that I arrived at 6:57, but had to wait outside standing for 5 minutes knocking on the door because the doors had been locked before the meeting began. But I digress. Let's look at your public participation at board meetings policy, 0169.1. The Board of Education recognizes the value to school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of total public participation may be permitted at each meeting. Now, I've heard many times, including today, that these are business meetings taking place in public, not public meetings. But your own policy states that public comment is carved in to allow for your business to take place. Each person, and this is the policy, each person addressing the board shall give his or her name and address. If several people wish to speak, each person is allotted 5 minutes until the total of 30 minutes is used. Agendas are available to all those who attend board meetings. The section of the agenda for public participation shall be indicated. This is where we seem to have a conflict in understanding. On your own agenda, you have indicated public participation as an order of business. Additionally, we seem to have confusion here. Quote, any person or group wishing to place an item on the agenda shall register their intent with the superintendent no later than 5 school working days prior to the meeting and include name and address of the participant, group affiliation if and when appropriate, topic to be addressed. Such requests shall be subject to approval. Apparently, some of you fail to see there's a difference between wanting to speak during public participation and wanting to put a topic on the agenda. Many times you've tried to conflate the two, but unless you are deliberately trying to stop the public from participation, these are two separate issues. You see, your agenda doesn't come out until midday Friday, before the Wednesday's meeting. That only allows us 3 business days to request to speak on a topic. So either you are intentionally withholding the agenda so that nobody can follow the 5 business day rule, or these are 2 separate issues. Either way, you're not following your own policies. The presiding, and quote, the presiding officer shall be guided by the following rules. Public participation shall be permitted as indicated on the order of business. Residents, groups of residents, or staff members having a legitimate interest in the actions of the board may participate during the public portion of a meeting. Participants must be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to preface their comments by the announcement of their name, address, and group affiliation. You see, nowhere does your policy state that we must pre-register with you at the beginning of the meeting to speak publicly. Nowhere does your policy state that we must provide you with an agenda topic to be eligible to speak during public comment. Nowhere does your policy state that we need to be in our seats at the start of the meeting in order to be eligible to speak publicly. In fact, I'd argue that your new tyrannical rules specify that only forms must be received before the 7 p.m. meeting start time. Based on all of this, I still should have been permitted to speak at last month's meeting. And lastly, nowhere does your policy state that you may arbitrarily change policies either. Now, believe it or not, I'm not here to argue with you, but I am here to hold you accountable to your oath. You have the right to amend these policies. However, according to the OSBA, to which you belong to, you are asked to speak with the superintendent and to do 2 public readings before putting them into place. After which, you must notify that these policies apply, that this policy applies to. However, you may not have done, after which you must notify those that this policy applies to. However, you have not done any of these steps. In fact, I'd be curious if Dr. Barnes supported the rules that make it harder for the public to communicate. So until you formally change your policies, we will not be subject to your discretionary rule changes. You are elected to do a job that represents us. Not to be the authoritarians in power. Remember why you are in those seats, and if you can't, we will.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ashley Blanco.
I'm famous. Is this working? Okay. It's nice to see your faces. Good evening. My name is Ashley Blanco, and I live at 6087 Williamsburg Drive in Highland Heights. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I know that many parents in our district were grateful when you dropped the mask mandate for grades K through 12, but I am not one of them. I am not grateful that you've given something back to me that was never your right to take. Furthermore, I am disgusted by the fact that you continue to use incredibly faulty logic and bad science to justify the continued masking of our youngest children. In addition to that, you are hiding behind a quote-unquote federal guideline to say that you have no choice but to force children to wear masks on school buses, when that is simply not the case. As of February 3rd, your updated masking policy states in part, quote, pre-K students and staff will remain in a mask mandate since this population does not yet have vaccine eligibility, unquote. So are you just going to indefinitely force masks on 3 to 5-year-olds until this quote-unquote vaccine becomes available to them? What if it never becomes available to them? Will all pre-K students in Mayfield have to wear masks until they go to kindergarten? Given the fact that the science is now telling us that people who get the vaccine can still get COVID, still spread COVID, still die from COVID, your justification for forcing masks on these children frankly makes no sense. Your mask update also stated that, quote, per the federal guideline, masks remain required on all school transportation, unquote. I assume you were trying to say that school buses somehow fall under public transportation. In the state of Ohio, this is not the case. Section 5501.01 of the Ohio Revised Code states in part that, quote, public transportation means publicly owned or operated transportation by bus, rail, or other conveyance. Public transportation does not include school bus transportation, unquote. If that wasn't enough to make this guideline null and void, there's also this pesky thing called the 10th Amendment, which says, quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people, unquote. Put simply, the federal government has no power to dictate to a public school in Ohio what the rules are for masking on school transportation. Our state has the right to make that determination. And since our state does not include school buses as public transportation, this guideline is simply that, a guideline, not a law, and not something that you can use to hide behind to justify masking our children on the buses. This also brings me to a point that seems to be missed by many people since the start of the pandemic. Guidelines, mandates, recommendations, these things are not laws. As public servants who take an oath of office to support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Ohio, one would think that at least you would know and understand this. If the legislature cannot make a law violating due process, and they cannot, under Section United States Code 18, Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law, under the 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments, if they cannot, then neither the governor nor the CDC nor the Ohio Department of Health, nor the Mayfield City School Board of Education make a rule or mandate that violates the basic rights of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. And to quote our current president, we've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin. I urge you to do the right thing and get rid of the rest of your mandates. You can say you're doing it for every student every day, no matter what age, or whether they're on a bus or in a pre-K classroom. If you actually believe your motto, you will change these policies immediately. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I believe next is Tracy Prevetto. Am I saying that right?
Prevet.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
I like to say prevete, but that's not how my in-laws pronounce it.
I like the pronunciation better, though.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tracy Previtt, 925 East Lawn Drive. Thank you for your dedication to our schools and our kids. I know that you have already had a long day today. Tonight, I am here to respectfully ask you to revoke the continued masking of our pre-K children in the Mayfield School District and will be citing many health experts from around the world to back up my stance. Dr. Elena Wen is Commissioner Health for the City of Baltimore and a CNN medical analyst. She was a big proponent of COVID mandates being imposed upon everyone, including children. However, when asked on February 8th of this year if she agreed with the removal of mask mandates, she said, "There was a time and a place for pandemic restrictions, but with the understanding that they would be removed as soon as we can." She encourages one-way masking, the idea that protection is only from the wearer with a high-quality mask, and that families should decide to institute masking of their kids if needed, not the government. Dr. Wynn goes on to say that the first restriction removed should actually be the restriction on children. There actually is a harm that we should be discussing of children continuing to mask. We should also be intellectually honest and say that masking has had a cost, especially for our youngest learners. End quote. I'm sure this includes children's social emotional skills like we saw at the beginning of this meeting. The World Health Organization, a leader in the pandemic response, says, in general, children under aged 5 years and under should not be required to wear masks. This advice is based on the safety and overall interest of the child and the capacity and appropriately use mask with minimal assistance. I hope I read that right. The National Institute of Health states on their website that the tools used to mitigate the threat of a pandemic, such as COVID-19, may very well threaten child growth and development. These tools, such as social restrictions, shutdowns, and school closures, contribute to stress in parents and children and can become risk factors that threaten child growth and development. The CDC, from where many of the state schools' COVID policies are derived, continue to cite bad studies. An article from The Atlantic entitled, "The CDC's Flawed Case for Wearing Masks in Schools" cites many experts who debunk the CDC's repeatedly referenced and widely covered in the press Arizona study, which is the study that the CDC uses to justify their guidelines for masking. The director of the CDC, Rochelle Walensky, told CBS Face the Nation that the schools that didn't have mask mandates were 3.5 times as likely to experience COVID outbreaks as the ones that did. The study is so full of flaws that Noah Haber, an interdisciplinary scientist and co-author of a systematic review of COVID-19 mitigation policies, called the research so unreliable that it probably should not have been entered into public discourse. The author of the Atlantic article found that the study included data from schools that were not even open longer than others, or from schools that were learning remotely. And a group of concerned scientists and pediatric infectious disease emergency and ICU doctors from all over the nation who formed the group Urgency of Normal outlines on their website the harmful use of masks in schools. They implore change that focus to supporting students' mental, emotional, and social health by avoiding escalating mask rules or other COVID policies. More restrictive policies increase fear and falsely convey that schools are unsafe. This increases harm to students' mental health, which can have major detrimental effects, end quote. The website includes a quote from New York Times op-ed by Dr. Joseph Allen. He states, "We should make masking in schools voluntary rather than mandatory. Masking was a necessary inconvenience early on in short stints was fine, but to think that 2 years of masking has no impact on socialization, learning, and anxiety is short-sighted. Kids are resilient, but not endlessly resilient. Basing masking policies on flawed studies and flawed science are purely for political reasons and should not dictate what we do in our schools. It's time to start being intellectually honest. Please discontinue the masking."
Thank Thank you. All right, I believe that moves us to President's announcements. I'm very excited that in just a moment, we're going to hear under some committee reports that we did have one of our first subcommittee meetings. That was at 5 o'clock this evening, so pretty exciting stuff. And that's all I have. Next is board committee member reports. I'm sorry? Superintendent. Sorry, Guy.
Oh, good. Thank you, Madam President. Mayfield High School senior Jenny Fu, who's a member of the Mayfield Speech and Debate Team, happy to announce, was named a national qualifier to the North Coast District's World Schools Debate Team. Jenny is the first ever national qualifier in the history of Mayfield High School. So we are very, very excited and proud of that accomplishment. Mayfield High School students are busy rehearsing for the spring musical, Beauty and the Beast. Please buy your tickets, make your way up there. The show will be Friday, April 1st through Sunday, April 3rd at Mayfield High School's auditorium. Check the website for tickets if you're interested. Our winter sports teams are pretty much wrapped up with the exception of boys basketball, who are actually playing tonight. I'm going to go over and try to catch the tail end of that. And then wrestling is at Willoughby South on Saturday for the sectional tournament. We intend to extend our Listen and Learn coffee talks. We've completed the first 4 meetings, and we will be scheduling 4 additional meetings. These next meetings will take place at our elementary schools, and Mrs. Euler will be working on that. So stay tuned for those dates. We will share those soon. And then I just have a really good plug. Last week, with the board's support, I was able to present at the National Superintendent's Conference. And I was very, very proud to represent this district and this community on a national stage. And our topic was all access learning and our commitment to every student. We were able to zoom back into the district from Nashville, where Mr. Ligon and Dr. Ward joined me in front of a pretty captive audience, and they brought it. They really did. I was very, very proud. And so, again, just another opportunity to never want to fumble the opportunity to tell about the good things that are happening here. So very, very proud of that. And that completes the superintendent's report.
All righty. Sorry about that. Next, we move to committee reports.
Well, good evening, everyone. As Ms. Grosick mentioned, about 2.5 hours ago, we were actually at another meeting at 5 o'clock, which was a Student Learning and Academic Excellence Board Committee meeting. We were at Center Elementary with engaged parents from Center and members from the community to discuss all access learning at Center. One of our board goals this year is supporting and promoting all access learning. We had a really nice turnout there this evening. Mr. Schiller, who I met this evening, Pat Ward, Mr. Nedlick gave a great presentation as it relates to all access learning, how our learning environments are evolving and changing. And we had a walking tour of Center, which was really, really good to kind of see how that building is. I actually had a son that attended Center for a few years, so I was already familiar with the building, but I haven't been back there in a while. He's a senior now. But we really had some great engagement from the attendees this evening. We had a brainstorming session towards the end of our program, and really received some valuable input from the parents, some things that they would be, interested in seeing at Center in terms of learning space at Center. So really positive. Thank you.
Any other committee reports?
No?
Yep.
Thank you,
School
sorry.
Foundation.
In addition, we will be conducting a similar format at Lander Elementary next Wednesday, also at 5 PM. So we look forward to meeting our Lander parents and, community members. It's open to the public, so we will conduct the same format, and I'll look forward to receiving their input as well.
Is each school having that kind of meeting, or?
We are starting at the elementary level. So we conducted Center tonight, Lander next week, and then I'm not sure what the remaining schedule is as far as the other buildings.
Yeah, I think what we'd like to do is revisit Mill Ridge. As you guys will recall, we did improvements there, but COVID kind of impacted that. Is my mic not on? No. Oh, sorry. How about this?
Yeah.
There we go.
You're
There we go. I just got to use it. Yeah, so the idea is to revisit the all-access learning platform at the elementaries primarily this spring, hitting all 4 elementaries, and then obviously next year looking at the middle school and secondary. So this is the beginning because obviously we're starting on the ground level with our elementary students and making sure that we can catch those up that were negatively impacted by COVID. Obviously all were, but really to make to address some of the facility challenges that we're noticing.
So as I had mentioned last month, and I will mention again, that these subcommittees are sessions that are much more interactive, and we felt that that was very important. And so that's why these have been created and reflect the 4 pillars of education. Those meetings are announced in the same way that our board meetings are announced, because they are official board meetings. They're official meetings of the board subcommittees. So it follows under that same protocol. All righty.
Ms. Grieve, do you want to mention the
Oh, yes, the,
Mayfield School Foundation?
Sure.
Being that you're the chair.
Okay, one more thing. Okay, yeah, the Mayfield Schools Foundation plans, I did report last month at my very first meeting here. Plans are well underway. That event is, again, being held at Topgolf. Donation letters have already gone out. There are various sponsorship levels associated with that event, very similar format to last year. Again, the event was created to engage our families. Obviously, you're well aware the Green Tie Gala has been suspended, just obviously due to the pandemic, and it's just not really the right time to, hold 300 people in a in a party room right now. So this is an alternative, a nice alternative to get our families out, community members, city officials, whoever. It's the MayfieldSchoolsFoundation.org website has all of the information pertaining to this event. It was sold out last year. I have no doubt it will be sold out this year as well. It's well on its way. Thank you.
okay, anything else?
No.
All righty. At which time we will then move to the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through Q. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro,
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
I think we would like to recognize Mr. Taylor, Kent Taylor. Dr. Barnes?
There it is, thanks.
There we go.
Yes, Mr. Taylor, who's a administrator on our classified staff with the Buildings and Grounds staff, thank you, announced his retirement, so he's going to be missed. Mr. Taylor used to be the head custodian at Mill Ridge before moving into an assistant supervisor position and then becoming the supervisor of Building and Grounds. He's an excellent professional, and we will definitely miss his presence, but we wish him the very, very best.
So we need roll call. Yes?
No,
we're
that
done.
was at the end.
Sorry,
But,
we did
other-
that a little out of order.
Yes,
there.
sorry about
Thank
that.
you. Other superintendent's business is the College Credit Plus Partnership Agreement with Notre Dame College.
So second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
And the College Credit Plus Memorandum of Understanding with Cuyahoga Community College for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next, we move to the treasurer's report and the financial statements for January 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Finaro and seconded by Mr. Hess. Thank you.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
The next section, we have donations, my favorite. And thank you to all those who donate things because it really is very helpful.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next, we have the financial transactions that are an addendum. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
And in other treasurer's business, we have the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 19th, 2022. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Next, the 2022-2023 consumable fees, K through 12. Motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I would just simply like to comment in this consumable fee request, as in the next one, every effort was made to maintain the same level of fee year over year, because as we're noticing, we're trying to minimize that cost on families and try to rethink the way in which we handle consumable fees, at least throughout the district. And then obviously item C, we're the fiscal agent for the Excel Tech Consortium. So you'll see fees on there for programs that are housed elsewhere, but as the fiscal agent, we're required, this board is required to approve those fees, just as a point of reference.
Which moves us to item C.
Actually, we need to take the roll call. I'm
Sorry.
sorry, we have a
That's
motion
all
and
right.
second on this item.
We
so
did it the right way this time. Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Now on to the Excel Tech program fees.
Correct.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Under other board business, this is the first reading of policies, so there is no motion that needs to be taken, but those first policies have been published and posted. Next, I would need a motion to move into executive session per Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider employment of public employees, and Ohio Revised Code 121.22G4 to prepare for, conduct, and review a collective bargaining strategy. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Mrs. Grieve.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
There is no prediction of any movement beyond that or any other things that are going to be happening, so we will adjourn directly out of executive session.
Correct. There will be no business.
There's no action.
No business action.
No action. Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
So a half wrap.
You were happy.
Where are we going upstairs?
Tonight.
I haven't been told. I don't know. I mean, we are, but I haven't been told.
Test, check, check.
Feels like it's late.
I thought you were doing ventriloquism.
Yeah, like a badly dubbed movie.
Test, check, check.
Yeah. Front conference room.